Hello and welcome to this lecture on thesis worksheets for a compare and contrast essay. You can find this thesis worksheet on Canvas in our modules tab. If you go into, I'll show you here. If you go into our class, go into assignments, compare and contrast essay, you can read through the prompt. If you go into the modules and scroll down, you will see that we have thesis worksheet available for you in our Project 1 folder. So scroll down through there, click on our thesis worksheet, and you'll be ready to go and follow along with this prompt. Your homework for tonight is to post your thesis worksheet completed up on Canvas. We're going to be spending some time together talking about the thesis worksheet in class tomorrow, but I want it to be completed and posted to Canvas so I have a chance to see your ideas and respond to them, help guide you as you head into your construction of the essay. So here's what you need to do in order to have all the elements present for a successful thesis. First, I want you to create a definition for the term revenge. Don't look this up in a dictionary, just define it as best you can based on your knowledge of the real world and based on your knowledge of our novel here. I also want you to create a definition for the term justice. So pretend that you write a dictionary, define revenge, define justice here for yourself. Then I want you to explain one significant difference between these two terms. Last week we were working on those similarities and differences list. We talked about listing as an option. We talked about Venn diagrams as an option for organizing our ideas. This is just another way to get those ideas down on paper so that when we get into the essay, they will come more quickly to mind as we start our composition and research. So explain one significant difference between the two terms. Then I want you to explain one significant similarity between the two terms. How could somebody confuse revenge and justice? What do they have in common? Go ahead and mention that here. Feel free, of course, to use the Leon Seltzer article we discussed last week to help you with these definitions and to help you with differences and similarities. For number 5, which of these terms do you believe is the major theme of Murder on the Orient Express? You're going to be arguing major theme in your essay. So do you think it's revenge? Do you think it's justice? Tell me why, and then give at least one specific piece of evidence that backs you up. So pull a quote from the book that supports your idea that revenge is the major theme or that justice is the major theme. And remember that there is no wrong answer here. As long as you can find support in the text for your answer, it's awesome. So make sure that your ideas are well supported, but I'm not worried so much about whether you pick the right of these two options. There is no right one. You could make an argument for both. I just am looking to see how well you argue and how well you support that argument. For 6, write a thesis statement that provides context for your analysis, that acknowledges the complexity of both terms, and that argues the implications if your chosen term is the heart of Christie's work. So this is asking you to do multiple things, just like our diagnostic essay. Thesis statement asked you to do multiple things. We are going to be exchanging these thesis statements with a partner tomorrow. So come prepared to share your thesis statements in class tomorrow, but we are going to be submitting this worksheet on Canvas by midnight tonight so that I get a chance to look at these as well and give you some feedback. Just as an example to kind of help you out, I've written a thesis statement, a possible thesis statement for this essay. There are many ways you could argue this with many different nuances. This is just one of many options. So the first thing you're asked to do is write a thesis statement that provides context for your analysis. I have my context right here in this first line, Agatha Christie's mystery, Murder on the Orient Express. That's my context. I've got my author, I have the title of the book, that's context. Now my reader knows exactly what source I'm going to be arguing with. So context, check, got that done. Next, we want to acknowledge the complexity of both terms. This is not an easy argument to make. There's a lot of gray area in the definitions of these terms and then in how the terms are carried out in the novel. Now that you've finished it, wasn't it amazing, first of all? And second, Poirot struggled a lot with this case. When he got to the end of the novel, he was still trying to come to terms with this moral gray area, and we should note that struggle as well. So I do that in the next little bit of the sentence, where I say it demonstrates the complicated overlap between the ideas of revenge and justice. I'm saying this isn't a clear-cut kind of argument. There's a lot of room for interpretation here. I want to acknowledge that this is a complicated issue we're going to talk about. So I have my context, Agatha Christie, author, title of the book. Then I talk about how this is a complex issue. And then I'm going to make my argument. I'm arguing which is the primary piece of this puzzle that Agatha Christie gives us. So thereby forcing the reader to redefine their understanding of revenge and its implications. So I'm saying not only am I getting my ideas from Murder on the Orient Express, not only are these complicated ideas, but this complicated book forces the reader to redefine how they understand revenge and its implications. I'm saying revenge is the major theme here, that the character's actions have a lot of implications. Poirot decides to let them go. We could say that arguably this is revenge based on this thesis statement. Once again, you could argue it's justice. Both are absolutely equally valid. I just had to pick one for the purposes of examples. So in this example, I'm arguing that revenge is the primary theme. I'm saying that the characters acted out of revenge. Yes, Ratchet escaped justice in the justice system, but going out and murdering someone, I'm going to argue in this thesis statement, is revenge. And the way in which he was murdered feels more revengey, because you can kill someone quickly and painlessly. You don't have to stab them 12 times, right? So there's some argument you could make there about the way in which their actions carried out what they thought was justice, but what I would argue in this thesis is revenge. And then we'll talk about its implications. If what they did was revenge, was Poirot right to let them go? When we get to the end of this novel, we're kind of okay that the people did this to Ratchet, but also we know that stabbing people is wrong, so we have to grapple with that a bit. So talk about the implications. We want to take this big picture. Not only is Agatha Christie talking about big ideas in her novel, those ideas can also apply to humans in general. What motivates us? How do we make our decisions? How do we feel like we balance the scales again when someone wrongs us? We want to note that this is complicated and that the implications, if revenge is the theme of the novel, can be long-reaching. And so that is just one example of a thesis statement you could use for this essay. So your homework is to complete this compare and contrast thesis worksheet, write your own thesis, post it to Canvas, and then bring your thesis to class tomorrow, as we're going to exchange these with a partner and get some revision suggestions, make them as clear and concise and fabulous as possible, so that when we get into our outlining work, you've got a solid basis to build from. And the final thing to keep in mind is that thesis statements are oftentimes the hardest part of an essay to write. And this means that the first stab at it, will not be perfect. When I write a thesis statement, it goes through multiple drafts. I normally scrap it and rewrite it and scrap it and rewrite it several times before I get something I'm happy with. So don't put too much pressure on yourself on the first shot at the thesis. It's not going to be perfect. We can all just agree that now. It's not going to be perfect. But by taking this first step, we will get that much closer to a perfect thesis statement by the time we get to our final draft. So happy worksheeting. Work hard on this. Try and make your very best thesis. And I'm looking forward to reading these as you upload them in Canvas. As always, reach out if you have any questions. I'm here to help.